I built an entire business for my girlfriend. Then she slept with my best friend and told me, "You're too boring to keep a woman like me." So I quietly shut down the company, wiped out her brand, and started seeing her sister. My name is Jason. I am 32 and I work as a product manager for a mid-sized fintech company based in Tampa, Florida. My schedule is predictable and heavy on long planning cycles, so I am used to thinking in quarters and years instead of days. I own a 3-bedroom house in a suburb about 20 minutes outside the city. Financially, I am stable, but not flashy. My girlfriend was Laura. She is 29, and we were together for 3 years. We did not share a mortgage, but she moved into my house about a year into the relationship, and we split utilities while I covered the mortgage because my income was higher. Laura worked as a freelance graphic designer when we met, mostly doing branding packages and social media visuals for small lifestyle startups around South Florida. She was talented but inconsistent with money. Some months were strong, others barely covered her expenses. She always said she did not want to design for other people forever. She wanted something that carried her name. About a year and a half ago, she started talking about launching her own skincare line. At first, it sounded like a normal side project. She had ideas about clean ingredients and minimalist packaging that would appeal to the beach-heavy Florida market. I treated it like any early-stage product concept. I asked about margins, supply chain, customer acquisition cost. She rolled her eyes at that. She said I was overthinking it, and that real entrepreneurs moved on instinct. Still, I believed in her drive. I helped her register the company under her name. I built the website myself over weekends. I used my savings to front the first manufacturing run because she did not have the capital. I handled contracts with suppliers since my job already involved negotiations. Officially, it was her brand. Unofficially, I built the operational backbone. The business actually started working. Within 8 months, she was making more than her freelance work ever brought in. She stopped taking client design jobs and started introducing herself as a founder. At dinners with friends, she would joke that I was her unpaid assistant. It got laughs. I did not push back because I assumed it was harmless. Looking back, that was the first mistake. The first shift in Laura happened slowly, so I cannot point to a single day where she changed. It was more like watching someone adjust their posture over months until you realize they are standing differently. When the revenue started coming in consistently, she stopped asking for input. In the beginning, we had weekly check-ins at the kitchen table. I would show her spreadsheets. We talked about customer retention and inventory turnover. After she quit freelance work, those conversations stopped. She said meetings felt corporate, and she wanted to keep things creative. She also started spending more. At first, it made sense. Better product photography, influencer gifting, a part-time assistant to handle customer emails. Then it drifted into things that were less directly tied to growth. A new car lease because founders should not drive something basic. Designer outfits for networking events in Miami. A PR consultant on a 3-month contract that did not produce measurable returns. I did not block her from making those decisions. The company was legally hers. I had set it up that way intentionally because I wanted her to feel ownership. My involvement was informal. I had admin access to everything because I built it, but on paper I was just the boyfriend who helped. The tone in our relationship shifted too. She started correcting me in front of people. If someone complimented the website, she would say she guided the entire vision and I just implemented it. If someone asked how she scaled so fast, she would laugh and say she had to teach me to think bigger. The jokes stopped feeling harmless. They were always framed as playful, but there was an edge. Once at a dinner with my friends, she said that ambition is attractive and some people are comfortable being safe. She did not look at me when she said it, but she did not need to. I addressed it the same night. I told her privately that I did not appreciate being minimized publicly. She said I was being sensitive and that confident men do not need constant credit. I did not escalate. I just said I would not sit through that again. That was the first boundary I set. It did not hold for long. Around that time, my best friend Mark started being around more often. We have known each other since college. He works in real estate development in Orlando and comes to Tampa a few times a month for meetings. He is louder than I am, more social. The kind of guy who walks into a room and immediately starts telling stories. Laura liked that energy. At first, I thought it was harmless. She said Mark understood hustle because he dealt with big deals and investors. I did not feel threatened. I have never been insecure about my friends interacting with my partner. What I did notice was how often she compared us. If Mark talked about a risky property acquisition, she would glance at me and say that some people are just wired to take big swings. If I pointed out potential downsides, she would smirk and say that is why I work in corporate. One weekend, Mark stayed over because he had early meetings. The three of us went out to dinner, and Laura drank more than usual. She spent most of the night debating business with him. At one point, she said she could see herself expanding to national retail within a year if she had the right partner. I asked what that meant. She said she meant business partner. The look she gave me said something else. That same night, after Mark went to the guest room, I told her directly that the dynamic was off. I was not accusing her of anything physical. I was pointing out the pattern, the comparisons, the public jabs, the subtle alignment with him over me. She said I was imagining competition because I was threatened. She told me I was too structured and that women like her need stimulation. That word stuck. I told her clearly that if she wanted a different kind of man, she should say it instead of performing it. She laughed and said I was overanalyzing again. I did not argue. I went to bed and decided I would observe, not react. I have learned in product strategy that data beats emotion. If there was something real happening, it would surface. It surfaced faster than I expected. The data surfaced in a way I did not expect because I was not looking for it in a dramatic way. I was updating the back end of the website late one Tuesday night. Laura had been out at what she called a networking mixer in Miami. Mark texted earlier that day saying he happened to be in the area for a site visit. I was not checking her phone. I was not following her location. What happened was simpler. Our business email was still synced to my laptop because I handled supplier communication. Around midnight, a hotel confirmation came through. It was addressed to Laura. 2 guests. 1 king bed. Downtown Miami. I stared at it longer than I want to admit. The booking time was 7:42 p.m. That was about an hour after she said the mixer started. I did not call her immediately. I checked the company calendar. No scheduled brand event the next morning. No retail meeting. Nothing that required an overnight stay. At 1:15 a.m. she texted that she might stay with a girlfriend in Brickell because it was late and she had wine. I replied that was fine and went back to the laptop. I called the hotel directly. I asked to confirm a reservation under her name. They would not give details, but they confirmed it was active. I did not drive to Miami. I did not create a scene. I went to bed. When she came home the next afternoon, she acted normal. She said the event was productive. I asked directly if she stayed at a hotel. She froze for half a second. Then she said yes, but alone, because she needed quiet to think about expansion strategy. I told her I saw the 2 guest reservation. She did not deny it after that. She shifted instead. She said I was making a big deal out of nothing. That adults can share space without it meaning betrayal. That I was too rigid to understand fluid connections. I asked one question. Was it Mark? She did not answer with words. The silence was enough. Then she said the sentence that ended the relationship in my head. She told me I was too boring to keep a woman like her. The interesting part is not that she cheated. It is what I did next. I did not yell. I did not ask for details. I did not try to win her back. The moment she said I was too boring to keep a woman like her, something settled instead of breaking. I told her we were done. Not temporarily. Not for space. Done. She blinked like she expected negotiation. When none came, she shifted again. She said I was overreacting. That it was one night. That successful people do not cling to outdated relationship rules. I reminded her that this was my house and solely in my name. I told her she had 24 hours to pack and find somewhere else to stay. I was clear that after that, I would change the locks. I followed it up with an email that same afternoon documenting the move-out deadline, so there would be no confusion later. She called me dramatic. I told her I was being decisive. Then I did something she did not anticipate. The company might have been in her name, but the infrastructure was mine. I owned the server hosting account. I built the payment processing pipeline under a merchant account tied to my LLC because it was easier at the time. The supplier contracts were negotiated by me and required my signature for volume pricing. I had never hidden that. She had simply never cared about the details. That evening I logged into everything and mapped dependencies. Hosting, payment processor, email marketing software, CRM, warehouse agreement, influencer affiliate dashboards. I did not delete anything impulsively. I exported backups. I documented credentials. I spoke to a lawyer friend the next morning to confirm it was within my rights to withdraw my personal assets and services from a company that was not contractually bound to me. I was. Over the next week, I began unwinding it. I canceled the merchant account effective in 30 days. I notified the supplier that future purchase orders would require renegotiation without my volume guarantee. I transferred the website files to her with notice that hosting under my account would end on a fixed date. I did not sabotage. I withdrew support. Laura did not notice immediately because sales were still flowing. She noticed when payouts paused and customers started emailing about failed checkouts. That conversation was far less confident than the one in my kitchen. She was already staying at a short-term rental by the time the operational cracks started showing. I had changed the locks exactly 24 hours after our conversation, like I said I would. Her things were packed neatly by the front door when she came back with her sister to collect them. I was present the entire time. No shouting. No theatrics. 3 days later she called. Her tone was different. Less sharp. More controlled. She said payments were not processing and customers were complaining in the comments. She asked if something was wrong with the site. I told her nothing was wrong. I had sent written notice that the merchant account attached to my LLC would be terminated on a fixed date. That date had arrived. She said I could not just pull support like that. I reminded her that I was never an employee or contractor. There was no agreement locking me in. I had funded the initial production run from my personal savings. I had provided infrastructure under my own business accounts. All of that was voluntary. She accused me of trying to destroy her. I corrected her. I said I was removing myself. There is a difference. She said I was being petty because she chose someone more exciting. That word again. Exciting. I asked if Mark was planning to step in and rebuild the back end. She went quiet. Then she said he was not technical, but he believed in her vision. Belief does not replace payment processors. Within a week, her supplier contacted her about minimum order quantities. Without my volume guarantee pricing, her margins were cut in half. The PR consultant invoice came due. Influencers started asking about delayed affiliate payouts. She called again, this time angrier. She said I was ruining years of her work over one mistake. I reminded her that I built the structure that allowed those years to exist. Then she said something that shifted the story again. She told me Mark was not answering her calls either. When she told me Mark was not answering her calls, I felt something I did not expect. Not satisfaction, just confirmation. I had already stopped speaking to him. The night I confirmed the hotel booking, I sent him one message asking if there was anything he wanted to tell me. He replied the next morning with a generic line about adults making complicated choices. I did not respond after that. I blocked him and moved on. Laura, however, seemed genuinely surprised that he was distancing himself. She showed up at my office building unannounced that Friday afternoon. Security called up because she insisted it was urgent. I agreed to meet her in the lobby to avoid a scene. She looked tired. No makeup. Hair tied back. It was the first time in months she did not look curated for an audience. She said Mark told her he needed space because things escalated too quickly. He was not ready for a serious relationship. He had thought she understood that. I asked her what exactly she thought sleeping with him would lead to. She said she assumed two ambitious people would build something powerful together. That he would invest. That he would help her scale nationally. I reminded her that Mark flips properties. He does not run e-commerce operations. She said I was being cold. I said I was being accurate. Then she asked if I could temporarily reconnect the payment processor while she figured things out. Just for a few weeks. She said the brand reputation was at risk. That customers were complaining publicly. I told her no. Not because I wanted revenge, but because reattaching my LLC to her liabilities after a betrayal would be irresponsible. If chargebacks spiked or suppliers went unpaid, it would trace back to me. She said I was proving her point. That I lacked passion. I told her passion without loyalty is just chaos. She stood there for a moment like she expected me to soften. I did not. As she walked out of the lobby, I blocked her and realized something else. Her sister had been the one helping her move out. And unlike Laura, her sister had not laughed at me once. Her sister's name is Emily. She is 27 and works as a pediatric nurse at a hospital in Clearwater. Practical job. Long shifts. No interest in startup culture or influencer events. We had always been friendly, but not close. She would come to family dinners and mostly observe. The day Laura moved out, Emily did most of the physical work. She carried boxes without commentary. When Laura started making comments about how intense I was being, Emily told her to focus on packing. That was the only time she pushed back, but it was noticeable. A few days after the office lobby incident, Emily texted me. She said she did not want to be in the middle, but she felt I deserved to know that Laura had been talking to Mark for months before the hotel night. Not physical at first, just late calls, private jokes, complaints about me being predictable. I thanked her for telling me. I did not ask for more detail. There was nothing to salvage. She apologized on behalf of her family for the way things unfolded. I told her she did not owe me anything. Adults make their own choices. Over the next 2 weeks, Laura's brand unraveled publicly. Customers posted screenshots of failed payments. Influencers removed affiliate links. Without inventory financing, she could not restock bestsellers. Negative reviews started appearing. I did not comment anywhere. I did not expose her. I did not tell mutual friends the full story unless asked directly. Mark never reached out again. One evening, Emily asked if I wanted to grab coffee. She said she had been dealing with the fallout at family gatherings and needed neutral ground to talk. I hesitated for about a minute before agreeing. Not because I was trying to start something, because I wanted closure that did not involve chaos. We met at a small place near the water. She looked exhausted from a 12-hour shift. No pretense. No performance. She asked me one question. Did you ever feel like you had to shrink so she could feel bigger? I answered honestly. Yes. That conversation lasted 2 hours. It was the first time in months I did not feel like I was defending my stability. And that is when the situation became more complicated. I want to be clear about something before people jump to conclusions. I did not pursue Emily out of revenge. I did not message her first with some calculated plan to hurt Laura. If anything, I was cautious to the point of overcorrection. After that first coffee, we did not text daily. We did not flirt. We talked maybe once a week, mostly about normal things. Her hospital stories without violating privacy. My work projects. Neutral ground. What changed was how calm it felt. Emily does not talk about ambition as performance. She works 12-hour shifts, comes home tired, and repeats it the next day. There is no audience. No curated image. She does not measure value by who is watching. About a month after Laura moved out, her company officially paused operations. The website went dark. Social accounts stopped posting. I know because mutual friends mentioned it, not because I was checking. Laura tried once more to contact me through a new email address. She said I sabotaged her life, that if I had supported her through one mistake, none of this would have happened. I did not respond. The truth is simpler. I removed my infrastructure. The rest collapsed because it was never as independent as she claimed. Emily and I ran into each other again at a family birthday gathering for their mother. I debated not going, but her mom had always treated me kindly and invited me directly. I went for an hour. Laura avoided eye contact. Mark was not there. At one point, Laura pulled Emily aside, and they argued quietly in the kitchen. I did not hear the words, but I saw the dynamic. Laura pointing. Emily standing still. Later that night, Emily texted me. She said Laura accused her of betraying family by talking to me. I asked Emily if she was comfortable continuing to see me, even casually, knowing the tension. She said she was tired of living according to Laura's emotional storms. That was the first moment I realized this might become public and irreversible. About 2 weeks after that family gathering, Emily came over to my house for dinner. Nothing dramatic. I cooked. We ate at the kitchen table where Laura and I used to do business reviews. The difference was there was no performance in the room. We talked directly about what this would mean. Emily said she had spent most of her life cleaning up after Laura's emotional decisions, covering shifts, smoothing family arguments, taking the quieter role so Laura could be the loud one. She was done doing that. I told her I would not move forward unless she was fully comfortable with the consequences. I was not interested in secrecy. If we dated, it would be openly. No hiding. No triangulation. She agreed. The next weekend, we went to a public art event in Tampa. Nothing intimate. Just visible. A mutual friend saw us. By the following Monday, Laura knew. She called from a blocked number. I answered once because I assumed it might be business-related. It was not. She said I was predictable in the worst way. That I could not attract someone new, so I settled for her sister. That I was trying to hurt her because I could not compete with Mark. I let her finish. Then I said something I had not needed to say until that moment. I did not choose your sister to compete. I chose her because she does not need an audience to feel valuable. She told me I was destroying her family. I responded calmly that she made her choices. I made mine. Then I hung up and blocked that number too. It has been 8 months now. Emily and I are still together. Slow. Stable. No brand launches. No dramatic speeches about ambition. She works her shifts. I work mine. We eat dinner without anyone trying to win. Laura's company never relaunched. Mark moved on to another city for a development project. I have not spoken to him since. If being boring means consistent, loyal, and unwilling to finance my own disrespect, I am comfortable with that label. Some people confuse chaos with excitement. I do not.